Hello, 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 and welcome to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Israel Rivera, and I got my main man, Matt James and Christian Simpson here for another edition of College Football Showdown, presented by the one and only Prime Sports World. Bring the heat 24/7. Everybody go ahead before we start the show. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. We go live about 6 to 7 times a week, sometimes 8 times a week, bringing you the best and most content, consistent content here on Facebook and on social media, period. Keeping it locked. And go ahead and like our NBA Supreme and NBA Supreme, NFL Supreme and NBA Supreme Facebook pages, groups as well. Go ahead and join those groups. And I dropped a link in the comment section. If you guys want to join the podcast, feel free to join the podcast. And for my main man, Christian Simpson, go ahead and lock down and go ahead and subscribe and like the dailyblitz.blog and Monday Evening Quarterback. Keeping it locked here.
Oh man, I appreciate that. And I'm here. I'm here.
My man's is here. He's here. Only way to break down the bear. We here, baby.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, look, this was the week we were really looking forward to, Izzy. We talked about this on, off the microphone. I told you that week 10 in college football, that's about to be a game changer. That's going to be a deal breaker for a couple of teams, and we got a couple of good games on the docket. Man. But there's really one big one that I know we're going to get into.
I like to look at this week as we got one real big one that we really kind of didn't expect to have at the beginning of the college football season, but as it progressed, we got it with Georgia, Tennessee, and right. The second big one that's not getting as much pub as Georgia, Tennessee is Alabama going into LSU.
Yeah, I mean, look, Alabama, LSU, first Saturday in November, as that rivalry is known as. Man, they've given us some classic moments over the years. I know you remember that 2011 game when Alabama and LSU was a defensive struggle, and I kept telling myself that, look, these two were going to meet when it matters most. In the national championship, they did. And LSU, I don't even think they crossed the 50-yard line in that game. I think of Joe Burrow capping off his Heisman year in Tuscaloosa with that big win over Alabama a couple years back. But now, Brian Kelly's going to get a taste of this rivalry, the Seder Bowl.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And another big thing about Week 10 is it's the first college football playoff rankings, the first week that the college football playoff rankings are here. Right. And those are the rankings that only matter, folks. And you'll see in this show, scrap the AP top 25, scrap the media. We're not playing for that no more. We're playing for the college football playoff rankings, and that's what we have here on this show, and that's what we have right now. And so it's really big right now. A lot of teams kind of jockeying for position to get in that top 4. So real interesting. With Matt James, you got anything to add before I start the show? Because I got a couple things on the agenda that I want to start with.
I mean, you guys pretty much covered pretty much the main emphasis here. Outside of that, I mean, just to add in, we do have one game tonight starting at 9:30. So tune into that if you guys have time. But yeah, we got another slate of big games this weekend, and of course, I'm always looking forward to it, just like you guys.
Well, yeah, no, we got number 24 Oregon State going into Washington. I wholeheartedly expect Oregon State to win. I'm done with Washington after they disappointed me, losing like that to LSU and then losing to I think it was Arizona State that they lose. Yeah. I'm done with Washington. I'm not picking Washington for the upset in Washington. I'm not doing any of that. Okay, I'm not doing any of that. And when you lose to Arizona State, with Herm Edwards getting the Herm Edwards treatment at halftime, and having no coach and you're in shambles, you don't deserve to get my praise here on College Football Showdown no more. But anyways, I have a couple teams. I got a couple teams that I gotta wax and tax before I close the show.
Look. You know what? I got my drink right here, so I'm gonna let you get to it.
Well, that number one team that I got to wax and tax is the Oklahoma State
Oh,
Cowboys.
yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
gotta wax and tax them. You lose 48-0 to Kansas State and a backup quarterback in Will Howard.
Oh,
Deuce Vaughn
goodness.
had over 120 yards in the first half. He was running through that little jitterbug was running through that defense. 48-0. I mean, you didn't even have Adrian Martinez out there, playing. You had a backup in Will Howard who went 21 to 37, 296, and 4 touchdowns. There is no excuses to lose like that. You have one of the best offenses, and it's not like Spencer Sanders was hurt or there was Oklahoma State was hurt. You just can't went into Manhattan and you dropped the egg. You dropped the egg. And this is what I'm talking about with Mike Gundy's team sometimes. You know, I just can't put a fingernail on it, but you lose to 48-0. 48-0. You don't
See.
deserve to even
Mm-hmm.
be considered to be in the top 15 anymore. Yet alone, you don't even deserve to even be a thought of being even in the college football playoff. I don't care if you go undefeated the rest of the season or win the rest of your games the rest of the season. You don't deserve to even be a thought in to be in the college football playoff when you lose 48-0 to Kansas State and the backup quarterback. I'll just say.
Nah, I mean, I
You got
knew.
that out of your system?
Oh no, I got some more. I got some more 14. I know
Yeah,
you guys will like this one for another team.
let
I
me
say the
hear it.
best for last.
Oh Lord, I can't wait for that one.
uh,
Yeah.
but
No,
yeah,
and
I
your guys'
mean,
thoughts on Oklahoma State losing to Kansas State last week? Just horrible. Just horrible. And I don't have anything to say. They're not going to get any a waste of my breath. It's a waste of my breath talking to them, talking about them.
hmm.
Wax them and tax them and put them on the shelf. Put them away till next season. That's all I got to say.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got to say. And then I guess since you guys in second team that I want to wax and tax is the Michigan State Spartans.
Oh God, yeah.
I knew this was coming.
I want to wax and tax the Michigan State Spartans. First of all, you got your heads beat in at Michigan. You got your heads beat in at Michigan. You lost 29-7. After the year before, y'all beat them. It was cool when they came into y'all house in East Lansing and y'all beat them, right? But they beat your heads in, and then you decide to do the off the field antics in the tunnel. Michigan player goes in the tunnel, and it's
Oh
all
yeah.
over, plastered all over me. Not one player that y'all jumped, but y'all jumped two players like we're some thugs on the street.
Yeah, I mean
Okay,
that.
what is
I mean that whole thing. I understand a rivalry and all that, but something like that's just completely unnecessary and uncalled for. And I'm glad that they actually um, took initiative and punished who they needed to right away for that.
Yeah, I think my thing about that whole incident is one, this is a bad look for Mel Tucker and not just the football program, but I think the university as a whole, you guys. And another way I'm looking at it, you're viewed more on how you handle losses than you are any type of victory in life. And they just look like sore losers. And quite frankly, I saw
Mhm.
more fight in that tunnel than I did on the football field that night.
Oh,
absolutely,
absolutely.
and that's my thing is that you guys showed more fight in the tunnel than you showed on the football field as Blake Corum ran for 177 yards in a tutty on y'all. Y'all couldn't stop Blake Corum, but y'all could sure as hell beat up, 6, 7, 10 guys, beat up on two guys. Uncalled for. And definitely Michigan State takes two L's last week. Two L's.
Oh yeah.
last week. And I'm
Three.
glad
Oh
I'm
yeah.
glad they took steps to identify those players and suspend them. And rightfully so. I know young kids do dumb things sometimes, but they should that has no place in your program. I say instead of suspending them one game, you suspend them a couple games. I
Suspend them
would
for the
say
rest of the
suspend them a
season.
couple games.
Nah, I think you got to really put your foot down
Yeah,
in incidents like this. Suspend them for the rest of the season and
that too.
suspend them a couple of games for next season.
You know what? I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that. I think that's actually a good suspend them the rest of the season, suspend them next 2 games the next season, and you're really showing your team this is not acceptable. We're not going to be a program like this. We're building a program. We're trying to maintain a program with the likes of Michigan and Ohio State. And when we do stuff like this, it don't look right. It's a black eye on our program, and I just hope that they get that right. And I hope those young men really sit back and realize what they did that was detrimental to their team so far this season with that incident. Moving forward to the college football playoff rankings. Yes, sir. Yeah, so usually we do the top 25, but this is the first week where we have the college football playoff rankings. So I'll start. You got number one Tennessee, rightfully so. They've been the best football team in college football so far, in my opinion. Just offensively and defensively. I mean, they have literally the best offense, high-powered offense this season. Number two, we got Ohio State at number two. They've just been like we said, they've been taking care of business all year. No matter what anybody says, they haven't played anybody. The only people they played is Penn State and Notre Dame. Well, they showed me some against Penn State last week. They took care of business against Penn State last week, even though it was a close game. They took care of business and pulled away. And then number three, we got Georgia. And then at number four, we got Clemson pulling out a victory. And then on the outside looking in, we got number five, Michigan, and number six, Alabama here. So you guys tell me, I just want to go over like the top four with the two outside teams. You guys tell me what your thoughts on those top four are, and Michigan, Bama, or any other teams that you think that probably maybe got snubbed out of the top four.
Well, let's see. The committee went with the eye test, Izzy. Like, who have you beat that stood out? And Tennessee, out of all, you said the top six, out of all six, they have the best win out of any other team in the country. When you beat Alabama, that's going to be eye popping on the resume. So they deserve that number one spot. They have the best offense, or one of the best offenses in the country. And I think Hendon is the favorite right now to win the Heisman. He's really been on a tear this year. This is the most I've watched Tennessee football in a while. And Josh Heupel just really has them believing this is a legit title contender. They're balanced offensively. And here's the crazy thing. They didn't even look all that great last Saturday. Their defense really took control of that game, and they shut down one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Will Levis. And I think he's the most pro-ready quarterback out of any quarterback in college, next to Sam Hartman, of course. Number two, yeah, I know people are going to have a problem with that, but I like what I saw from them last week due to the simple fact they were down, but they were never out the game. JTT, I can't pronounce his last name, but you know who I'm talking about. JTT, he really
He played a game of his
look,
life.
he
He
was
played a
all
game
over
of
the
his
field.
life.
He was all over the field, but this Ohio State offense, they're going to keep tuning and cruising along until that big game, Thanksgiving weekend, when they play Michigan. So, number two, okay. Number three, look, they're still the defending champs until they're no longer the defending champs. If you want to get somewhere in this sport, you're going to have to take them down. But my thing about Georgia is with the crunch part of the season coming up, November, December, and then trying to be one of those two final teams that stands on that Monday night in January. Can they play more consistent football? I knew it was going to be different for them this year, but can they be more consistent? Can the defense get off the field? Because teams have no problem attacking that defense now. I don't think Georgia gave up 20 points at all during the regular season last year, and they've given up 20 3 times. But then again, that's what happens when you lose a bulk of your title winning team from you're from last year and they're in the NFL. And then number 4, this is the one I disagree with. Clemson just hasn't done it for me. Look, I like DJ, and it's no disrespect to him. He'll get me to the promised land, meaning he can get me to the championship game, but he won't take me over the top. I think Michigan should be in that number 4. I just think they're a better team across the board than Clemson. Then I think TCU should be at 5, and then Alabama at 6.
Go ahead, Matt.
Wow. So you take Clemson completely out of the top 6?
I said Clemson. Yeah.
Okay.
Because look, TCU is better than them. I think Michigan is better than them. Alabama, I think they're neck and neck with Alabama this year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Michigan should definitely be in the top 4. I understand their non-conference was possibly one of the weakest in the country, but they did what they needed to do in those games, and they have one of the best running backs in the country, a solid defense. I mean, they pretty much are kind of building off of what they did last year, and hopefully they've learned from that blowout loss in the playoff game last year going into this year. And I do agree, this is definitely an eye test, but Tennessee has definitely been that top team in the country right now. Them and Georgia, I mean, that they'll face off tomorrow, and we'll see who's the better team out of the two tomorrow, with Georgia's defense holding teams under 10 points and Tennessee putting up 50 points a game. So it'll be a fun one to watch tomorrow. But I do agree with the top 3 here. I might switch Georgia with Ohio State. I say might. But I would definitely put Michigan in the top 4 at the number 4 slot with I'd go with Clemson 5, Bama 6, and keep TCU at 7. But outside of that, I really have nothing else to say with this. As I said, pretty much agree, especially with the fact with Tennessee. I called them out in preseason. I know I've said this a few times over the weeks, but being the dark horse to be in the playoff, but the fact that they've took it above and beyond that to be the number 1 seed exceeded even my expectations from them. So
yeah, so I'm actually gonna disagree with both of you guys about Michigan. I'm gonna tell you I had to clean my lens there because you gotta look at the you gotta look at the shine. I'm actually gonna disagree with both of you guys on Michigan, and here's why. And this is why I know why the committee put Clemson ahead of Michigan. Clemson's 3 signature wins have come against 3 ranked opponents, and they're gonna play another team they're gonna play a Notre Dame team that's not ranked yet, but they're gonna play them. They're gonna play a Notre Dame team that was ranked in the top 10 in the beginning of the season. So if you look at their schedule in the beginning of the season, and everything went well, and then South Carolina at the end of the season, which was a top 25 team, they're gonna play at least 5 ranked opponents. Florida State was ranked 2 at one point, if I'm not mistaken, but they beat Wake Forest, number 20 Wake Forest. They beat a top 10 team in NC State, and they beat Syracuse last week, who they had struggles with in the first half, but then they reared off 17 unanswered in the fourth quarter. Michigan has only beaten Penn State, and Penn State at home at that. They haven't really played anybody, and they're not really going to play anybody until they play Illinois, number 16 Illinois, which should be probably in the top 10 by the time they play them. Right. And then the big one at the end of the year in the Columbus in Ohio State, number 2 Ohio State at the end of the year. So Michigan at this point hasn't played enough ranked opponents to be put into the top 4. Now everybody can say, "Oh, the eye test this, the eye test that." We think Michigan's better. They run the football the best in the nation. The power running game, all of this jazz. But when it comes down to the numbers and you look at the schedule, Clemson has played a harder schedule up to date, and they've won all of their football games. So I gotta have Clemson in the top four, and I actually agree with the committee on putting them in the top four over Michigan. Um, when I look at Alabama, best one-loss team in the nation. If any
Yeah.
of these other teams fall out, like Clemson, I got Clemson out. We'll get onto it, but like Georgia and Tennessee are gonna lose. One of them's got to lose,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Um, Ohio State, Michigan's got to lose at one point this season, right? Because they play each other. Alabama's
Mhm.
going to get into the top four. They're the best one-loss team so far in the nation right
Right.
now. So if Clemson loses to Notre Dame, if Tennessee, I for sure say if Georgia loses to Tennessee and they don't look good in it, then I think Alabama's going to be right in the top four easily. When I look at Georgia and Ohio State, I heard Matt say, "Oh, he'd swap out Georgia for Ohio State." I'm going to say this: Georgia has played a tougher schedule, in my opinion. Right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they played that win against Oregon looks really good.
Oh yeah.
Oregon's a top 10 team. They're number 8 in the college football playoff rankings, and they blew them out 49-3. That win looks great right now. Okay. But they haven't looked so great going into Missouri. They didn't play Missouri well. They gave up 22 points to Kent State when they probably should have beat them by 60. And also they had some slight issues. Other than that, they've really kind of been blowing teams out. I know Florida kind of gave them a little bit of some tough tests in the first half, but other than that, Georgia's been blowing teams out, pretty much all season, and they have played I would say, Auburn, Florida, Missouri, even South Carolina. They beat South Carolina, was a top 25 team, 48-7. As opposed to Ohio State, which Ohio State's taking care of business. So I actually agree with the college football playoff in that aspect too. I'd actually keep Ohio State there. Because they beat number 5 Notre Dame. They just beat Penn State, who was ranked, and they went into Penn State and beat them 44-31. And they've taken care of business. Every single team, they've taken care of business. They haven't even let a team sniff them. Other than Penn State last week, and maybe Notre Dame in the beginning of the season, they sniffed a little bit of Ohio State. They almost had them, but then Ohio State pulled away. I think Ohio State deserves to be the number 2 team in the nation. So that's just me. I think the top 4 is right. The top 5 or top 6 is right, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I'm just gonna add this real quick. Excuse me to excuse me to Alabama. I mean, they go into Death Valley this week, win that, then they go into they play at Ole Miss next week too. You win those 2, you definitely deserve to be in that top 4 slot.
Well, yeah, and if Clemson loses to Notre Dame, which Clemson set up a pretty decent schedule for themselves.
Yeah.
To be
Notre Dame's not going to be easy. They're going into South
and they're
Bend
playing in South
too.
Bend, so it's not going to be an easy game. And looks like Notre Dame's kind of hitting their stride, even though they lost to Stanford a couple weeks ago. But I think that's going to be a tough test for Clemson. And I believe the last time Clemson played them, I believe they lost to Notre Dame with DJ as the freshman quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. Or did they play them last year?
Nah, they played them in 2020, and Notre Dame beat Clemson.
Yeah, Notre Dame beat them.
Notre Dame beat them, and then they played in the ACC championship. And
and then they
got
lost
them
to
back.
Trevor Lawrence in the
Yeah,
ACC
then they lost
championship.
it. Yep.
Yeah. So this is another game for Notre Dame and Clemson the last couple of years. So this is going to be a big test for Clemson and a lot of implications on the line for them. If they lose this game, they're out. They have no, out of all the 6 teams that we just mentioned, they are the one with the least amount of wiggle room. Basically, they have the least room for error. They have to go undefeated to be in the college football playoff. If they don't go undefeated, they could call their season over with. You know.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, anyways, moving on. We'll quick shot this. We got number 7 TCU, number 8 Oregon. I mean, and nobody was ranked before, so these are just straight up. These are the first rankings that come out for college football playoff. I agree with Oregon being a top 10 team. They've been playing like a top 10 team ever since they lost to Georgia. They've been steamrolling teams. Absolutely. Number 9 USC, number 10 LSU. I actually do agree with LSU being in the top 10. They
Mhm.
have played really well. I'm like so surprised. I mean, Jalen Daniels has really galvanized that team, and Ryan Kelly has brought them back. Up. I mean, now you starting to look, man, like Ryan Kelly left Notre Dame, went to LSU, and they're a top 10 program. I mean, he's showing that he could turn your program to a top 10 team no matter where he goes. Winning travels. So I don't know what this comment is, but anyways, and then we got number 11 Ole Miss, number 12 UCLA, number 13 K State. After that whomping beat down that they had at Oklahoma State last week, and at number 14 we got Utah, 15 Penn State, number 16 Illinois. I expect Illinois at some point to be in the top 10 or close to the top 10 than what they are now. They're playing really good football so far this season. And then number 17, we got North Carolina. 18, Oklahoma State. They shouldn't even be in the top 25 after losing like that to K-State. But anyways, that's just my opinion. And then number 19, we got Tulane. Tulane's been playing great football ever since they got into the top 25 for, I think, first time in school history, if I'm not mistaken. Tulane has just been, surprising me so far this season. They're definitely playing like a top 20 team this year. And then rounding out the top 20 is Syracuse, who lost to Clemson and Notre Dame as well, back-to-back weeks. So, Syracuse was a team that could possibly be in the top 10 if they would have won both of those games, but now they're in the top 20 and kind of outside, kind of at that bottom way. And they're one loss away from just completely being out of it. And then number 21, Wake Forest, 22, NC State, 23, Oregon State, who we'll see tonight going up against Washington, the Washington Huskies, and number 24, Texas. And round out the top 25, Gus Malzahn's number 25, UCF. Who he thinks should be in the in the top 4 for some reason. I don't know why. For real. But yeah, no, that's the college football playoff rankings. Do you guys have any thoughts about them? I mean, literally outside the top 6, I mean, it's pretty much, when you look at the top 10, I mean, do you guys agree with any of the top 10? Would you guys put anybody else in the top 10?
No, I can agree with it. You made a really good point about LSU, and that Brian Kelly effect is really starting to sink in. Wherever he
Mm-hmm.
goes, success really follows. I mean, I still remember what he did with Cincinnati all those years ago before he took the Notre Dame job, and look at everything he did with Notre Dame. He left
Mm-hmm.
as the winningest coach in Notre Dame college football history. Now he's in LSU, and give him a couple years to really settle in, bring in his own recruits and his own players, and this is going to be a powerhouse.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think LSU, once he gets settled in and he starts to recruit better, he starts to recruit for LSU. Starts to get his guys in. I mean, SEC program. I mean, I think the sky's the limit for LSU, especially with Brian Kelly being there. I think he could turn. I think he can return them right. And we saw this year their top 10 program. I think he can return them back into a top 5 perennial program year in and year out,
I
in my
agree.
opinion. And for all the stuff that I blasted Brian Kelly about at Notre Dame, him being too complacent. Oh, they're always getting there, but they ain't out. They can't get over the hump. And it's kind of been a consensus with him, everywhere. I think at LSU he'll have the talent to get him over the hump, the speed, the power. I think he'll have that. I think he'll have that. He'll get those recruits in to be able to get over the hump and possibly get into the college football playoff and make some noise. But I think he's doing a hell of a job at LSU.
The
So far.
only thing I think that's kind of kept Brian Kelly from getting over the top and winning a national championship is quarterback.
No,
Like
yeah.
he's never really had a consistent signal caller under center. I think the best one he's had, maybe you might agree with me, is the best one he's had might be Ian Book.
It probably was Ian Book. I mean, he had a few good ones. I mean, he had Everson Golston. He
Didn't
had
pan out.
Yep, he had Malik. Yep, Everson Golston. He was a rookie, and he didn't pan out after that rookie year. After that freshman year,
Right.
then he had Malik Zaire was okay. He didn't really
pan
pan
out.
out. And then you have who else? Deshaun Kaiser, who went in this first round of the NFL draft, but he really didn't pan out. You know, he really didn't put them over the hump either. So yeah, you're right. I mean, Ian Book was his most consistent quarterback there at
Right.
Notre Dame. So I think when you look at LSU, I mean, you got the transfer Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's a junior this year, so he'll be back next year. Matt James knows about him. He was the Arizona State quarterback for a couple seasons under Herm Edwards. Did some great things for them. But I think Jaden Daniels could be that guy for LSU. He certainly played like it this year so far for them. So yeah, we'll see how it goes with LSU. And then I got to say Oregon. I mentioned those one-loss teams. Oregon's the second best one-loss team in my opinion in the nation, next to Alabama. Do I think Oregon deserves to be in the top 4? I would love to see. I think other than them playing, I think Oregon can play toe-to-toe with Tennessee. I think Oregon can play toe-to-toe with Ohio State. I definitely think Oregon can play toe-to-toe with Clemson. I definitely think they can play toe-to-toe with Michigan. The only team I said it from the get-go, that Georgia matchup with Oregon and Georgia, that was just a bad matchup for them. And those matchups, sometimes they can be killer. The way Georgia plays physical, presses up a lot, gets after the quarterback, and I think Bo Nix being the first time in that offense, I would love to see that game again and how it would unfold. But I think they're the second best one-loss team in the nation, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And then you got LSU.
Absolutely.
I mean, then you got USC as the third best one-loss team in the nation, which I think we'll see. USC and USC and Oregon later on down the road as well. So fun stuff here. Coming up in the college football playoff as we wind down the season. Moving on to our feature games of the week. This is my favorite time of the show here. I picked some featured games and I picked some upsets of the week, and I get some insight from Christian and Matt here. So starting number 1, and they're not in chronological order as opposed to times, but they go ranking as my featured games as opposed to like the magnification or excitement for these games. But I'm gonna start with number 24, Texas, going in to Manhattan, playing number 13, Kansas State. How do you guys see this one shaking out? I'll start with Matt here.
You know what? This is a interesting matchup here, especially after Kansas State's huge victory last week and an embarrassing loss for Oklahoma State. We're not going to get too much more into that. We are already got our rant and raves off of that to begin the show. Oh, goodness. This is definitely an interesting one because the key factor, especially for Texas, is can Bijan Robinson control this game? I think he can. Being a road game in Kansas State is going to be tough for them overall. Texas has done tough in these type of games. Especially on the road. A couple of close losses to Oklahoma State and Texas Tech this season. I'm going to take Kansas State in this to slow down Bijan just enough to hold on to a tight victory at give me 31-27 Kansas State.
What about you, Christian?
Yeah, I like Kansas State in this one. I just don't know what Texas team is going to show up, and this comes down to who can really control that clock a bit more, and this is pretty much favoring the Kansas State Wildcats. No team slows it down more than they can, and I think that's going to be a determining factor. Yeah, Quinn Ewers might put up a couple of numbers here and there or two, but I just think Kansas State, they're the more physical team and they play better defense.
I want to cut that mullet off of his head, man. I'm just playing.
Or you know who he reminds? Hey, Izzy, you know who Quinn Ewers reminds me of? He's the closest thing I've seen of Phillip Rivers.
Man, yeah, no, him or a slight like a just even like a Justin Herbert in a way too as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
but I do see more of a Phillip Rivers comparison though. The way he could step up in the pocket and really rip the ball with guys around him. Yeah, I do see that a lot. Yeah, this is actually one of my upsets of the week. I actually have if it is an upset, usually it's the other way around. You know, if we're looking at the history of both these programs, you're usually talking about K-State upsetting Texas. You never see like Texas upsetting K-State, right? But I actually have
Yeah.
Texas beating K-State. I think K-State will have Adrian Martinez back, but shoot, the way Will Howard's been playing, I don't know, man. I might roll with Will Howard, another week just to see if we can get Adrian Martinez, back healthy again. Um, I think this game, obviously Texas, Quinn Ewers, Xavier Worthy, that's going to be a and Bijan Robinson, those three right there, that's going to be hard for K-State to slow down. And when we saw K-State have problems, they had problems against an explosive offense. And who? TCU, losing to TCU a couple weeks ago. And a couple weeks ago, Texas lost to the same very team that K-State beat 48-0 in Oklahoma State. And Texas could have probably won that game. Oklahoma State had to come back and win that football game. So when I look at Kansas State, I think they have some problems facing teams with some explosive players. I even like they even lost to Tulane as well, 17-10 early on in the season. But yeah, I'm gonna have to give the nod to Texas. I think Xavier Worthy proves to be big time in this game. Him and Quinn Ewers, that connection. I think Xavier Worthy has a really good game, and Bijan Robinson closes them out. I'm still waiting for a Heisman moment. Probably will never get one. He's not even in my Heisman rankings from Bijan Robinson, but he's a damn hell of a good running back. But I think he'll prove to be a X factor in this game as well, going up against Kansas State. So give me Texas to win that game. And then moving on to our next feature game, we got number 21 Wake Forest going up against number 22 NC State. How do you guys see this one playing out?
Well, when I look at Wake Forest, you know what you're going to get from them. Week in and week out, they're going to spread your defense out. They're going to get the ball to the open man. So if you're open, you're getting the football. And I mean, Sam Hartman, he just amazes me. I know you've been high on him, and I see why. Izzy, I've been watching him as much as you've been watching him. North Carolina State, they continue to trend in the right direction. I think if Devin Leary were playing in this game, I'd probably lean toward them, but I'm going to go Wake Forest on the road.
Yeah, well, and then, last week, Sam Hartman didn't have a good game going up against Louisville. And I think that's, I can't knock him for having one bad game. He threw 3 picks. Other than that, the guy's been, outstanding so far this season. What about you, Matt?
I agree with the pick with Wake Forest. But with Hartman, it'll be interesting. North Carolina State at home, especially, is a tough place to play with this defense. So we'll see how well Hartman comes in to this environment, especially after the blowout loss at Louisville last week. I have him coming back.
That'll kill you.
Yeah.
8 turnovers against Louisville. I suspect they won't have that kind of performance again.
No, they're going to clean things up like they have over the weeks, especially after that two overtime close loss to Clemson. They went out and won the next 3 pretty handily. And I see them coming in to this one, cleaning things up, playing a much more solid game, their game against actually a pretty good NC State Wolfpack defense. It'll be a tight one that comes down to the end, and Wake Forest just has the better quarterback that is going to lead them to a close victory here.
So I got some interesting facts here. So I got a few facts. So NC NC State 15 straight home wins. They're going for the gusto, one shy of a program record that was set by Lou Holtz from 1972 to 1975. So if NC State wins this game, they set a record. Also, the home team in this meeting has won the last three meetings. So that's another fact that we can throw out there. The last three meetings, whoever was at home won the game, and then this is only the third time between both of these teams in which they're ranked in the top 25. And then also, like I said, bringing up the turnovers for Wake Forest, they only committed 5 turnovers on the season before they committed 8 turnovers last week against Louisville, 4 fumbles, 4 interceptions. I expect that, and a lot of those are self-inflicted. Obviously, you lose 4 fumbles, that's self-inflicted. I expect Louisville, Wake Forest to clean that up a whole bunch as they go against MJ Morris, a backup quarterback who's getting his first start on the season. I believe MJ Morris is a freshman, if I'm not mistaken. Here, yes, MJ Morris is a freshman. And as impressive as he was, bringing him back against Virginia from being down 21-3, I don't think that this game will be close. I think that Wake Forest will beat them by at least 2 touchdowns in this game, playing on the road. So give me Wake Forest in this game. My next feature game of the week, we have number 4 Clemson going into South Bend, Indiana, playing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is a game of huge implications for Clemson. Not so much Notre Dame. This is a big test for Notre Dame. Having a top 4 team, they can actually, if they win this game, they vault right into the top 25 easily. And that's going to be big for Marcus Freeman and the boys. Going into next season for momentum, right? To beat a team like Clemson and to pretty much, sour their season. Clemson loses this game, it's over with for them. So how do you guys see this one playing out? I'll start with Christian first.
Well, when I look at this one, what an opportunity this will be for Marcus Freeman to get that signature win in his first year over a quality opponent like Clemson. And Notre Dame always seems to play Clemson tough somehow, some way. It's like they can man up with them. They can kind of give them a taste of their own medicine, which is a physical brand of football. And it might not mean a lot, but this Notre Dame team's seen DJ before. Let's be real here. Like, if Notre Dame can come in and bottle up the run, take away Will Shipley, and make DJ beat them consistently, Notre Dame wins this football game. I'm going with you, Izzy. I think Notre Dame can beat Clemson. Like, Clemson, they haven't seen a player of Michael Mayer's caliber all year long. And that's what I think the difference maker is going to be, is Michael Mayer. And I think it's going to be key. Notre Dame has to establish themselves offensively early on. They got to run the football, get downhill, and then just put Drew Pine in the best possible position to win the football game. And I think he can do it. I'm going to go with the upset. I'm taking Notre Dame over Clemson.
I'm going to give you a comparison. And I don't know if you guys agree with me on this, but Michael Mayer reminds me a lot of Travis Kelce.
Okay, let me hear how, because I have one for you as well. But let me hear why
I just think his route tree, I think he does a lot of stuff in the middle of the field. I think he can take advantage of linebackers. He's fast, he's big, he's physical, just like Travis Kelce. Also, he's not a bad blocker in the run game as well. He's the total package at the tight end position. They haven't seen a guy like Michael Mayer. He's explosive at the tight end position. He can take you deep. He can take you in the intermediate game. He can take a short route and take it for 5. He can take a short bubble screen and take it for 10 yards, or 15 yards or 7 yards. And that's big when you're talking about moving those chains. I think Michael Mayer reminds me a lot of what Travis Kelce does. He's a little bit bigger too than Travis Kelce, but he reminds me a lot of what Travis Kelce, and honestly, I'll give another comparison: Jeremy Shockey as well for Miami.
Okay, now about the Jeremy Shockey one, that's who Brock Bowers reminds me of. Like, that toughness, that
That's true
agility,
too.
getting up the field. But now, whenever I watch Michael Mayer, you're not wrong with the Kelsey one, but when I watch Michael Mayer, I see a lot of Mark Andrews in him. Just the ability to kind of run over the middle, create those mismatches. He's a threat in the red zone, fluid route runner, and can maneuver himself in space and knows how to position himself to get open. And he has that wide catch radius, meaning he can put his hands up and that ball's going to hit him in the hands right then and there. But yeah, I just don't think Clemson's ready for him. They're going to have to really bracket him and take him away. And I don't know if they have the athleticism in that secondary to do it.
What about you, Matt? What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had this one circled as one of my upsets this weekend, especially with it going into South Bend. Notre Dame's been playing some strong football over the weeks after those two early losses to start the season. Minus the little speed bump there against Stanford. Um, I definitely, with their physicality at home, think Notre Dame can definitely hold their own against Clemson, who's kind of flirted with trouble at times and escaped in some tough games like this. And I just don't think they're going to be able to do that in this one. I'm going to take Notre Dame by 3 points on this.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go with Notre Dame as well, man. I think, um, I think Notre Dame, um, they're hitting the stride a little bit. Drew Pine, he has showed some consistency. He showed some consistency, starting with this team as well. But I just think that, yeah, you're right, Christian. DJ Uyunglele, man, they've seen him before. I think this team, I think Clemson could be predictable, right? If they go down a little bit, if you could put the pedal to the metal on them, you can put your foot on your throat, you can really put them out. Um, and like I said, Drew Pine, if he could play well, he didn't play particularly well last game, but he has shown, some signs that he can, throw the football and get it to his main guys in open space. You know, like I said, Michael Mayer matchup is gonna be big time. I think those Clemson. He's gonna really test those Clemson safeties and linebackers as well. But also another guy that we got to really look at is Aldrich Estime too as well. This kid 99. The true sophomore here, 558 yards, 8 touchdowns. He is explosive as well. One of the more explosive running backs in the country. I think he's going to give Clemson some problems as well. Last week, he ran for, I believe, over 123 yards and 2 touchdowns against Syracuse. I look for, something similar against Clemson. If he could do that, I think Notre Dame is going to be, right there with them, in this game. And, they're playing at home. It's emotions are going to be high. They're going to play, well, under their fan base. So, give me Notre Dame at home, knocking out Clemson. And, now, Clemson's out. Clemson's out of the top four of college football playoff. Moving on to our next top two feature games. I think these two games are going to be our games of the year, other than Ohio State and Michigan at the end of the year, I think, depending on if both teams go into that game undefeated. We got number 6 Alabama going into number 10 LSU, going into Death Valley. Christian, how do you see this one panning out?
Well, when I look at Alabama, like their receiving core may not be as explosive as what we've seen with Devontae Smith, Jamison Williams, John Mechie, Jerry Jeudy, just to name a few. This group that they have now is starting to come together. But yeah, I want to say this too. What we've seen just how valuable Bryce Young can be for this Alabama team. Like if he doesn't play in that game against Tennessee a couple weeks ago, yeah, I know they lost, but I think it would be a blowout if Bryce didn't play. in that game. Now, I look at LSU, they're really coming around, they're really buying into, and most importantly, they're trusting what Brian Kelly is implementing and preaching and selling to them. I think LSU is going to keep this game interesting. Death Valley is a tough place to play in Baton Rouge, especially at night. Saban Bowl again. Do I think LSU makes it interesting? Yes, but I think Alabama has one or two more plays up their sleeve. I like Alabama by a touchdown.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Alabama should be able to emphasize who they are, especially with the fact that they are lingering just outside the top four of the playoff rankings. And as we spoke about earlier, I do think they will make it into that top four. This will be early on, should be a tough game in the first half. A lot of it is for LSU is how well can Jaden Daniels not turn the ball over like he has throughout the season here. He has definitely taken a couple steps forward under Brian Kelly's watch since he's transferred from ASU, but I don't think he's really up to the task against a Nick Saban defense. I'm going to take Alabama by 10 in this one.
Yeah, so I got some interesting facts here. Alabama 29, 9-2 all time in Baton Rouge, and they haven't lost there since 2010. So it's been 12 years roughly since the last time an Alabama team has lost in LSU. And I believe they won the previous two meetings with Christian, saying the last victory coming in Tuscaloosa. I believe that was when Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah. Look, there wasn't a team on that planet that was beating that LSU team. Honestly,
and that was a hell of a game too, by the way.
Yeah, it was. And honestly, that LSU team, they're one of the best college football teams I've seen since I started analyzing the game of college football in 2012. Like, look, I saw that Florida State team in 2013. I've seen a lot of those
the Miami teams with Ken Dorsey and Willis McGahee and Clinton Portis and Sean Taylor.
Look,
Najee Davenport and all
right. Look, 01 Miami.
Jonathan Vilma.
Default. Yep. 01 Miami. You just look at all the stars. Ed Reed. Come on, man. You can't forget a Hall of Famer.
Ed Reed. Yeah, Ed Reed too. Too.
Look, you can't forget 01 Miami, but man, like the last couple years, 18 Clemson, they were really good. That ferocious defensive line with all that talent. Austin Bryant.
With Deshaun Watson?
Yeah. No, Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. I look at 19 LSU with all that talent they had. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Glenn Logan on the defensive side. And then you look at Georgia last year. So I really wonder what team this year is going to join.
We can't forget USC though from 03
Nah,
to
we
05,
can't. Look, they were
04
everywhere.
06.
Look, they were everywhere. You really can't. Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Lendell White, like you really can't.
Mike Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Man, one thing Brian Kelly's 0-2 against Alabama in his career. Both of them, against Saban. Both of them while he was at Notre Dame. Definitely a different team. I'm going to say this. It's going to be interesting because LSU, you got Alabama and Bryce Young, right? And LSU, what have they done particularly well? They've been able to pressure quarterbacks like Will Rogers, Jackson Dart. But you have seen them kind of, against like Hendon Hooker, they had problems. Against those dual threat quarterbacks, they've had problems. Florida against Anthony Richardson, against Jordan Travis in Florida State, right? This is the team that's, the front seven is, led by, BJ Ojari, who leads them in sacks and tackles for loss. Mekhi Wingo is a guy that has 2 sacks, 33 total tackles as well. And then, you got your 3 linebackers who are really good as well. Harold Perkins Jr., Greg Penn, Mekhi Bakersfield. I think that this LSU team is going to give Alabama some problems defensively. And especially we saw Alabama have some problems against Texas. We've had Alabama definitely just have some problems against Tennessee. With bringing that pressure against that offensive line. I think LSU escapes with a win. This is another upset that I have on the slate here as my upsets of the week. I got LSU beating Alabama here this week. Um, Moving forward to our last feature game of the week, we got number 1 Tennessee going in to Athens, Georgia, and facing the number 3 Georgia Bulldogs. And this is as close to being the game of the year as you. And nobody at the beginning of the year thought about this is going to be the game of the year, but now we're here. This is the game of the year. We all thought the game of the year was going to be Ohio State, Michigan, but this right here can shape up to be the game of the year. How do you guys see this one shaking out? I'll start with Matt James first.
All right. This is going to be a good one. The key factor in this is Tennessee needs to get off to a fast start offensively. Do not allow this Georgia defense to settle in, because once they settle in, especially with this game being in Athens, you've seen it against a high-powered offense with Oregon to open up the season. They will shut you down if you allow them. They did it last year against Clemson to start the season, and this is just what Georgia does. They'll shut you down if you allow them to.
I think we lost him.
I think we might have lost him. There.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
Start to this game. So, if Tennessee can do that, I see this as, I guess, an upset. Despite the rankings, I mean, going into Georgia with them being undefeated, I mean, I have. Oh God, give me Tennessee. This is going to be their year. I'm going to take Tennessee 31-28. It's going to be another close nail biter for them, and I think they have just enough with Hendon Hooker almost solidifying his Heisman right here and beating Georgia's defense on the road.
What about you, Christian?
Man. Well, let's look at it like this. First, you guys know what's coming.
Oh yeah, shameless plug, baby.
Plug.
Shameless plug here.
I preview this one on the site tomorrow, but I'm gonna give some keys to the game because I just love y'all that much. Neither team has seen what the other one has been able to do, if you guys get what I mean. So Tennessee hasn't seen a defense this caliber like Georgia all year long, and Georgia hasn't seen an offense like this not only this year but probably since they played Alabama last year in the SEC championship game. Now I look at Tennessee, and Matt couldn't have hit it on the head. The biggest key for Tennessee is establishing the tempo of the game in their favor, in their hands. So, the way you attack a quick defense is a lot of quick passes, get the ball out your hand quickly, use tempo, no huddle, attack them, gas them up, get in the end zone. You're not going to beat this team kicking field goals. When you're in the red zone, you got to come away with 6 points, because if you don't, you're pretty much playing into what it is that Georgia wants to do. But I'm looking at the tight end. I'm looking at, what's that tight end's name for Tennessee? I got to look it up real quick because he's actually my X factor for the game, for the Volunteers. Tennessee Vols tight end. I'm looking it up right now. Let's see here. I'm looking it up. So you already know what you're gonna get from.
You talking about Princeton Font?
There we go. Yup. I think he's gonna be key in this game because they're gonna put so much attention on Hyatt. They're gonna put a lot of attention on Cedric Tillman. So that's gonna kind of leave lanes wide open for what's his name? For Fant. And then you look at Georgia. Georgia has to ugly this game up early on. They gotta run the football, and a lot of Brock Bowers and a lot of Darnell Washington. I think this is the best tandem of tight ends that we've seen in the country in quite some time. And I think this Georgia offense doesn't really get the love and the credit that it deserves because they can put up points as well. Yeah, this is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be as good as advertised. I
Mm-hmm.
preview it tomorrow. Make sure you guys are on the lookout for it.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
yeah. Be on the lookout for Christian's preview of this game there on the dailyblitz.blog. He drops that, before the games. I'm gonna say, you guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's the Tennessee offense versus that Georgia defense, who ranks, second in the nation in scoring defense. They're, fourth in total defense, fifth against the run, with allowing only 85 and a half yards per game. And we know that Hendon Hooker is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in college football. And then you got those two running backs as well, in Godley and Jabari Small and Jalen Wright. So those that's going to be key as well. But when we talk about the up tempo offense, I mean, Tennessee, they lead the nation in scoring at 49.4 points per game, total offense and passing efficiency. Jalen Hyatt's been like a killer lately. He has 9 catches of over 40 yards or longer. That's the most in the nation. So you're talking about if Georgia can limit those big plays between him and Jalen, between Hendon Hooker to Jalen White or Cedric Tillman, they'll be in good position to win this game. Georgia's won 23 consecutive home games, and this is the first game. This is a crazy stat right here. This is the first game between a number one team and a number two team in Sanford Stadium history. So this is a very historic football game right here that we're going to be watching, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, when I look at this, golly, and also I think what's another stat that I got? Tennessee has scored at least 30 points in 11 straight games. So that's the best in the SEC as well. So this is literally like a bender break type of game. Which team is gonna break here, and which team is only gonna bend, right? I think I'm gonna take Tennessee's up tempo offense against Georgia's defense. We saw Georgia, and also Tennessee plays pretty good, okay defense as well to slow down. The Georgia attack. So I think when you look at it, Stetson Bennett's going to have to try to keep up with Hendon Hooker. I don't think he can. I don't think that Georgia offense can keep up with the up tempo style that they're going to put points on the board. And I know that Georgia's defense is pretty good in the front seven, but when it comes to big plays, Tennessee's the best in the nation. And I think they're going to be able to stretch them out. I think they're going to be able to get some deep balls to Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. I do like that Princeton Font. I think those lanes do open up in terms of the seams for him. So I expect Tennessee to win this game. It just seems like destiny for them to win the national championship, in my opinion. I think they're the best team in the nation. They definitely have the best offense in the nation. Give me Tennessee on the road to beat Georgia.
And I'll say this too. Georgia losing Nolan Smith, like that's a big loss for them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I think, Jalen Carter is gonna be huge for this Georgia defense. Like, have you guys seen the way this kid plays? It's like offensive linemen don't even attempt to block him. He's just so physical and he's so nasty in those trenches. He's a bully. So I really want to see how they're going to use him to get after Hendon Hooker. Like, if they can put pressure on Hendon Hooker, they're going to win this game. But there is a lot of firepower. And I just want to see how Georgia is going to come out prepared for this.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can't wait for this game. This is going to be a slobber knocker, as my boy Jr. from from wrestling says. That's a slobber knocker. This is definitely going to be one of those. And I'll go over some of my other upset picks here. I went over 3 of them. Went over 3 of them so far. Covering the feature games. My other 2 upsets that I have, I got Memphis over UCF. Now I know I brought this up to one of my buddies the other day. Like, man, come on now, Memphis over UCF, man. I'm not putting them on the parlay. I'm not betting that. I'm not doing that. But first of all, at a plus 130 at home, I understand that Memphis has lost 3 in a row, but they came back and they gave Tulane a fight, which is a pretty good team. They lost in 4 overtimes on the road against Eastern Carolina, and then the last time they were at home, they lost a 1-point victory. They lost the 1-point game to Houston, the Cougars. So I think, and before that, so they obviously before that they're 4-1. So I think that UCF goes into Memphis. I think Memphis gives them all that they can handle, and I think Memphis pulls out the victory against UCF. And I don't even think it's a long shot. I think this is an actual legit upset that you can put on your parlay. At plus 130. Why not? I mean, UCF's only favored by 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
I'd even take the spread. With Memphis, I'd even take the spread with Memphis. I think this is going to be a close game. I think UCF, gets it out by a field goal. I don't think UCF separates himself from Memphis here on the road. I think Memphis wins this football game, and they definitely can keep up offensively. I know UCF is, 510 yards a game. Memphis 419 yards a game. And Memphis defense isn't particularly great, and neither is really UCF's. It's a little bit better than Memphis's, but it's neither offense, neither defense is particularly great at stopping anyone. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think Memphis has the edge being at home this week. And then my next upset of the week, I got Kansas Kansas beating Oklahoma State this week. I do think that Jaden Daniels might be in this game, if I'm not mistaken. I think he might be playing in this game.
Yeah, he might. Yeah, he might be. And look, I've been telling you guys for a while, the best way to attack Alabama's defense, get a mobile quarterback on them. Couldn't stop Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, just to name a few. Stetson Bennett last year, because he can show mobility. I think that's an underrated part of his game. But yeah, if you can move your quarterback around on them and kind of confuse their defense, because Alabama's defense, they're not built to limit mobile quarterbacks. Let's just put it that way.
And that's that, and you're particularly right about that game. I'm talking about the other Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
Jalen Daniels, not Jaden Daniels. Jalen Daniels from Kansas.
Okay.
He can really get it out. He's another dual threat quarterback. But I think this week Kansas really they just knock out Oklahoma State for good. Get them up out of there. They don't deserve to be in the top 25 after losing 48-0 against K-State. They lose to both Kansas teams this year, K-State and then Kansas right after that. And they're playing in Lawrence, Kansas as well. So I got Kansas beating Oklahoma State this week at home. And then moving forward to our last subject of the show, I got our Heisman Watch, daily Heisman Watch, weekly Heisman Watch, week 10. Number one, Hendon Hooker, definitely playing like the Heisman Trophy candidate. The best Heisman Trophy candidate. Over 2,300 yards, completing 71% of his passes, 21 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he has, I believe, I can't see his rushing stats, but he has over 300 yards rushing as well. So he's definitely a dual threat quarterback. And number 2, I got C.J. Stroud, over 2,300 passing yards, 71%. 0.3% completion percentage to 29 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Just a little bit better. I mean, in my opinion, both of these quarterbacks are similar. I think Hendon Hooker is just a little bit better of a dual threat quarterback than C.J. Stroud. But also he's on the team. I mean, Tennessee has beaten 5 ranked opponents this year, right?
Wow.
Ohio State's only beaten 2. So I got to give the nod to Hendon Hooker. He's played better competition and he's looked great doing it. At number 3, I got Caleb Williams from USC. I mean, I think he's the best player. I think if he used to come out this draft, I think he'd be the number 1 quarterback taken. I think he's the best thrower he's magnificent. He's electrifying. He's got 24 touchdowns with 1 INT as a true sophomore at USC, over 2,300 yards. I would like to see his completion percentage go up. It's at 64.7. But it should go up next year as he takes that next step under Lincoln Riley's offense. But yeah, Caleb Williams is special. I think he's the best quarterback, even as a true sophomore. I've been saying that all year. And then my number 4 ranked Heisman candidate in the top 5. I got Blake Corum. Over 1,000 yards rushing. I mean, 14 touchdowns. This kid is incredible, man. He can run on the inside. He's a power back. He can run on the inside, run on the outside. He's averaging 168.6 rushing yards a game for Michigan that rushing attack. So Blake Corum's at number 4. And then number 5, Bo Nix. I'm showing Bo Nix some love, man. Ever since he lost to Georgia, he's been on the tear. Bo Nix has looked the best in this offense. They have been able to, maximize his capabilities. He wasn't able to do that at Auburn. He's able to do that here at Oregon. Over 2,200 yards, passing yards, 72.3% completion percentage. That's better. That's better than C.J. Stroud and Hendon Hooker. So Bo Nix has been playing out of his mind. To 20 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Bo Nix has played his way into being a third round pick at least in the NFL draft. But he's been pretty good this year. He could probably be the pack. Push Caleb Williams to be the Pac-12 Player of the Year in my opinion. And then round on my top. Then my dark horse, I got Bryce Young. And my outside looking in, I got Chase Brown from Illinois and Drake May from UNC. I'll show Chase Brown some love from Illinois. Next to Blake Corum, he doesn't have the touchdowns, but he has more yardage. He doesn't have yards per carry, like Blake Corum does. But this kid Chase Brown is special. He's a bigger back. He's elusive. I give Blake Corum just the edge over him a little bit. I know TJ said, "Hey, who do you start, bench, and cut?" I took Zach Charbonnet.
Over Chase I remember Brown. That. Yeah,
y'all was like, "You disrespectful." But I can't hate on Chase Brown, man. He's been pretty great this year for U of I. And then looking at Drake May, quarterback from UNC, he's looked really special this year. Over 2,600 passing yards, completing 71% of his passes, 29 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for Drake May. And he's like one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, man, so far this year. So, any thoughts you guys would love to put into the Heisman rankings? You guys let me know, or drop any comments for any of the viewers as well. What do you guys thoughts on that?
I like it.
No, I agree with them, especially the putting Hendon Hooker over C.J. Stroud right now. I mean, you mentioned it all. He's done it all. He's a huge factor and reason why they're number 1 in the college football opening rankings. He's the reason why they're undefeated and doing so well, especially with a much tougher schedule than Ohio State's had so far. And I do like the fact that you're giving Chase Brown some love. He's been a big factor for U of I's 7-1 start. They played really, really strong defense over the season, and having a good, strong running back definitely goes a long way. So I do like the fact that you gave him some love there.
Christian?
Yeah, I like that you're giving Bo Nix some love. This guy's really turned the page since that opening game against the Georgia Bulldogs. He's in more control, and coaching truly makes a difference. He's on the same page with his offensive coordinator. You couldn't really say the same about that with under Brian Harsin and Gus Malzahn. And look at what just happened to Brian Harsin during the week. But other than that, Izzy, nah, man, I agree with it. I mean, Hendon at the top, and if Hendon does the impossible tomorrow and beats Georgia, this award is his to lose.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. And you guys keep it locked here, for tomorrow's games to see if who your favorite Heisman Trophy candidate. And if you guys have any Heisman Trophy candidates that I may have missed, go ahead and drop them in the comment section. And we'll discuss them next week on our Week 11 football show. But that has been a wrap for week 10. I hope you guys enjoy it. Everybody drink responsibly. You guys keep it locked here at Prime Sports World. Go ahead and please like, share, and subscribe the podcast here at Prime Sports World. Go ahead and like our NBA Supreme and NFL Supreme Facebook group pages. And don't forget to check out Christian the Daily Blitz.blog. And don't forget to check out Christian's preview of Georgia and Tennessee tomorrow as he drops that fresh out the oven, baby. Fresh out the oven. And don't forget to watch Monday Evening Quarterback every Monday with Christian every week here. But for everybody here, man, you guys have a great weekend. And also at Prime Sports World, guys, we bring the heat, ladies and gentlemen. Bring in the hammer, baby. Bring in the hammer. And you guys, I'll see you guys soon. And if I don't see you, man, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, my loves. Peace out, guys.
All right, Jen.
Oh yeah.